Okay, so I'm going to get to what we were talking about last night and just really, really briefly, because I want to get to what I'm going to talk about tonight, because this is interesting. We were talking about timelines last night. And hey, Kent, how are you?
Good.
Oh, good. um,
I just have my TV turned up. That's why I'm on mute.
okay, no worries. So what I did was I actually went back to Charmaine's first show with Daniel, and he actually addresses a lot of stuff that we were wondering about last night, and it still actually does not make any sense. Interestingly enough, he goes through Friday morning. He never mentions the school calling Malaya at 9:28. He never mentions that. Um, what he says is he was saying that he was woken up by Lily 2 times when Lily came into the bedroom, and that it was the second time that after he woke up, that then they didn't hear the kids after. But here's the thing. If he's waking up to Lily popping her head in the bedroom, why is he not waking up at 9:28 when the school supposedly called Malaya? 9:38, sorry. Thank you, Kent. Um, Kent, do you know if that is actually verified or if that's a rumor that the school phoned Malaya at 9:38?
Um, as far as I know, that was confirmed. Um, I don't know. Like, I don't think it was ever confirmed by RCMP, but I believe it was confirmed by Malaya in talking to Sonny. And I also believe that there was somewhere else along the way that whether somebody was talking to the teacher, might have even been Belinda and a little bit of contact that she had with her, because I believe that that teacher approached Belinda at the first vigil,
Okay.
because that's how I understand that's how Belinda got a lot of the pictures, school pictures, was from meeting the teacher at the first vigil.
Right. And yes, it was Chrissy that first mentioned that here in my channel. It was Chrissy Travers.
And Susan, the only thing that I have to say about that is I I've been looking and trying to find stuff, and in my own mind, I'm wondering if that person may not be a teacher, but may be an EA.
Okay.
And I think an EA who is would be I'm thinking would be much closer to the children, especially if she was assigned to them,
Mm-hmm.
than possibly a
Would this
teacher
ha-
would, and that's
would
why
th-
she might have made the contact back.
would this happen to also happen to be uh at one point have worked for the liquor store as well as the school?
Yes, the same person.
Okay.
And that's why I'm thinking more maybe of being now that we think about it, because a teacher wouldn't necessarily have another job during the week.
Right.
I would understand them having another job working in the summer, but we weren't out of school yet when the kid, like, there was still 2 months left of school. So
Right.
if it was a teacher, um,
I'm just going to
that's
butt in. Could you turn your TV down a bit, Ken?
yeah, that's why I'm on mute. Sorry, Macy.
Thank you. Sorry,
I'm
Susan.
watching the ball game and Toronto's winning, so I'm excited.
Uh,
But so yeah, that's just my own thinking. I'm wondering if maybe she wasn't an EA, and that's
Right.
why she also had a second job at that time.
Okay.
With you is that the friend that she stayed in.
Okay. So, what we were talking about last night was it's possible that when the um, teacher's assistant called at, or the teacher, whoever it was, at 9:38, maybe that was when they realized that the kids were missing. But we went through this whole thing where they wake up and there's so many versions of Janie coming out of the RV. And I have this now set up on Charmaine's thing. So I don't want to go back and open up the thing that I was playing yesterday. It's only a minute, though. I want to get more to explaining the timeline as Daniel explains it, because the issues that we identified last night was if they realized the kids were missing in and around 9:38. Hey, Alchemist, how are you? Thank you for coming in. Krista, thank you for coming in. They got up, they looked around the trailer. It's a single wide. This isn't like a 3-story home. It's not going to take them very long to look in the bedrooms, maybe under the bed or whatever. Then they head outside and Daniel runs up, and he says in one version that it takes him 30 seconds. And after that, he goes out in the vehicle looking, searching, and Malaya calls 911. What we were discussing last night was if Malaya made that call at 10:01 and Daniel left the property, Janie, when Janie, and this is the audio, I can, sorry, it wasn't Danielle. I can play the audio later that I played last night, but in that audio, Janie says that she says that she heard Daniel yelling for the kids. She thought to come inside, or yelling at Jack because sometimes Jack lets her chickens out. Regardless of the reason, she didn't pay much attention, scrolled Facebook, whatever she was doing. She says she then got up and went outside and found Malaya standing there. And she says it as though she was kind of shocked to find her just sort of standing in the driveway. it's late, and this is an audio from Janie from way, way back. Probably, I'm thinking maybe June, July, maybe. Because Janie didn't come out and start talking immediately when the kids went missing. I can't remember exactly when she started talking publicly, but this is audio of her in, answering questions in a Facebook group. Anyway, so I take that information much more, I put a lot more emphasis on the earlier information, because it's like later on the narratives change a little bit, and for sure Janie coming out of her RV has changed to imply that she came out to find out what was going on. That is not the way that Janie poses it early on. Yeah, that's correct. T. Sorry, Dot. That is correct. So, that narrative has changed slightly, but she also says there, and this is going to become really important in what we're going to hear from Daniel here. She says, I came out and found Malaya standing there, and I said, what's up? And Janie offers, just in that piece, I don't know if she had her phone. I wasn't paying attention to that at the moment. So obviously Malaya was no longer on the phone. We know that the phone call was 9 minutes and 48 seconds that she made to 911. So that brings it down to, 10 after 10. 11 minutes after 10 that Janie came out of her RV. And if they discovered the kids were missing at 9:38, got up, maybe spent 5 minutes or so looking around the trailer, they went outside calling them. He runs up to the fort, he said, and he said it took him 30 seconds, and he ran back down and then went and got the car keys and jumped in her car, in Malaya's car. You're talking you're talking like a quarter to 10, 10 to 10 at the latest, that Daniel is very likely leaving the property. It's not going to take him that long to do that. So that was one of the things that we were discussing last night, was what the hell was Malaya doing for 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes before she called 911? Like, what was she doing? But it even gets later than that, because Daniel claims here that they went out looking for the kids just before 10. I think he said 9:58 or something. And he actually left the property while she was still on the phone with 911. So I guess my question is, what were they doing for 20 friggin' minutes in the house before it does not make sense. So here, let me, I was going to play some of the stuff for you.
Susan, before you play that,
Yeah.
maybe, I'm just saying maybe,
Yeah.
if you believe Daniel at saying 9:58 of when they went outside, could Malaya, because she's the one got texted or called or whatever from the EA, could she have stayed in bed, laying there for approximately 15 minutes and then not hearing the kids and then waking Daniel up and then they getting up, checking the trailer, running outside and everything? Because we also did hear Daniel in one of the interviews early on, and I'm not sure where it was at, but he said that Malaya asked him, so should I call 911? And he said something like, fuck yes, the kids are missing. So
Right.
then,
And sorry, Ken, in another one though, remember, he said, "Oh, just wait. Hold on, let me check something." And he ran up to the forts.
well, I think both of those could have happened. I think he could have ran up to the forts and said, wait. And then when he came back down, when he was going to get ready to go search the ditches and culverts, if Malay had asked them then, well, do I call 911 now? He would say, hell yes, call them. The kids are missing. And then he goes and checks culverts and whatnot.
Right.
So we don't know where or how. Don't matter which one we listen to or which one you want to believe, but we don't know how that 10-minute gap, or 15 to 20 max, but we do know that Malaya said in her TV interview that the kids were missing for 20 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that rings with, if the call was made at 10:01, while 20 minutes earlier would have been 9:39 or 9:40, and that call with the teacher was probably a minute and a half or 2 minutes or 3 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
So then the teacher or EA would have called at 9:37, 9:38. So it
Right.
just depends on which statement you want to pick and choose to fit the scenario to,
Yeah.
like,
Okay, let me see
fit
where
the
I am.
timeline.
That's okay. Let me see where I am at
There's
this.
a lot. Yeah, I understand. Did you or Malaya have more than one phone? Belinda believes Malaya's phone was broken. And also, was there any point during that first morning on May 2nd that Malaya used your phone? I know there was some talk about that.
Okay, we can touch on that. Malaya did not use my phone. And it will go into the smashed phone stuff as well. I'll go into that story because I know Belinda heard something about that I smashed her phone. That is completely false. Malaya thought I was cheating on her one day, and she's like, I'm going to go smash my phone. I said, no, you're not. You're not going to do that. You're going to regret it. So then she went out to the sidewalk, and I urged her not to do it. I said, Malaya, you're going to regret smashing that. And this is what I'm talking about, where Malaya has very emotional, it's a roller coaster for her sometimes. And then that's not being mean or, harsh on her. I mean, that's just the fact of life. Her emotions sometimes get the best of her. And sometimes we don't think. Every human isn't perfect. We all make mistakes. And in her case, she went out to the sidewalk. I urged her not to smash the phone. And she smashed the phone on the sidewalk. And the screen smashed like 1,000 pieces. And that's where all her pictures of Lily and Jack are, is on that phone, the majority of them. So she put it in a Ziploc bag, and it remained in the end table in the bedroom until Malaya asked for it. And investigators came and got it. I gave them the phone. And so Malaya has that in her possession, Belinda, with all the photos of Lily and Jack.
Okay, now I just want to point something out here. Did you hear him say the phone went into a Ziploc bag and stayed in her bedside table drawer until she asked for it? And so the investigators came and picked it up. I would have thought that her phone would have been one of the phones that had been analyzed early on. Why would the police not already have that phone? Well, you see, Dot, that's another oddity. If the phone is in a Ziploc bag in her bedside dresser, and Daniel just said, no, she never uses my phone. What phone was she using? Alchemist, maybe. But again, they never mention anything about, he never says anything about we replaced the phone. Nothing at all. Right, Mama P. Yeah, whose phone did they get? Yeah, it's very unclear. Anyway, we'll carry on. Or it's just inconsistent. Yeah.
I don't have it. It was given to investigators.
Okay, thank you. How long do you honestly? So it's been a year, and I am sure if you're just like a normal person, you have gone back over that first day in your mind over and over again. Looking back, how long do you honestly think they could have been gone before you guys realized it?
See, the thing is, we don't have an alarm in our bedroom, and I always left my phone on the end table. Just like Malaya left her phone on the end table, right? We left them in each side of the bed, charging. And I don't know the exact time, but I'm guessing it would have been after the 828 call that Malaya made to her mother. And I never looked at my phone. Lily came into the room multiple times. I said, shh, like Lily got to go out. Meadow's trying to sleep. And because Malaya gets the kids up for school every day, like, right? Every day they go to school, Malaya gets them up. And I lay in bed with Meadow. Because at that point, she was just a little over a year old, and I wanted Meadow to get as much sleep as possible.
One of the things that I picked up about Daniel in listening to this, I listened to lots of his interviews and whatnot. When he is asked a question he doesn't want to answer, he globalizes the topic. So, and you'll see this, you'll hear this in him. So, and whether he is truly attempting to avoid answering a question, or whether he just doesn't know the answer, so he's avoiding it, whatever the case, in order to avoid an answering, what he does is he starts talking in he starts addressing a much broader topic. So here the question is how long do you think they were truly gone before you realized? And he's now getting into all this stuff about Malaya usually gets up with the kids, and they, like, nobody asked him that. But you'll see that he does this time and again, that he'll hesitate to answer, and then he goes into a much broader topic. I think to avoid it. And unfortunately, there's no follow-up. There's no, oh, and by the way, can we just backtrack? So, and the question was, there's none of that in this, which is kind of unfortunate. But still, we're very glad that she did this. And again, just to put it out there, this is Daniel Martell on Shar's True Crime Story channel on YouTube. And this is about a month old. Okay, so this was about a month ago. Okay.
Right? Because when the kids are getting off of school, they're loud and they wake up Meadow. So I would lay in bed every day. I didn't work with Meadow, and me and her would sleep while Malaya got the kids off for school. I didn't know the kids were being marked absent that day. And then that came to a shock for a lot of people because I don't really openly talk about it. And I don't know if investigators want me talking about it, but I didn't know they were being marked absent that day. And so when I thought Lily, I never seen Jack that morning. I heard him out in the kitchen. We can talk about that in a moment. But Lily came in multiple times, and she would just, come in and open the.
So once again, oh shoot, I lost the whole darn thing now. Once again, if he did not know that they were being marked absent, where was Malaya when this phone call supposedly was received from the school? Like, this is just too weird. They're supposedly both laying in bed next to one another. He's saying that he did not know the kids were marked absent and were not going to be going to school. But yet, according to a few people, and I'm not sure of the actual source, the school called Malaya back at 9:38 just to basically confirm, why are the kids not in school? Because she had emailed the school at 6 something to say the kids would be absent. And then there was a follow-up phone call from someone from the school at 9:38. So why the hell, Daniel? Why didn't you? Why? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you didn't know they were being marked absent? If Malaya is laying next to you in bed and she's getting a call from the school, did you sleep through it? And if you slept through it, why did you not sleep through Lily opening up the door 2 times when he said, oh, Lily would open the door and wake me up? None of this story makes any sense at all. I mean, I'm sorry. It just doesn't. It does not make any sense. Okay, we'll carry on. This just gets worse.
When the kids are getting off of school, they're loud and they wake up Meadow. So I would lay in bed every day. I didn't work with Meadow, and me and her would sleep while Malaya got the kids off for school. I didn't know the kids were being marked absent that day. And then that came to a shock for a lot of people because I don't really openly talk about it. And I don't know if investigators want me talking about it, but I didn't know they were being marked absent that day. And so when I thought Lily, I never seen Jack that morning. I heard him out in the kitchen. We can talk about that in a moment. But Lily came in multiple times, and she would just, come in and open the door, and that woke me up 2 times when she did that. And see, I thought Malay was, getting ready to get up with the kids because I thought it was a normal day for me because I lay in bed with Meadow sleeping. So I don't know the exact time on that, but investigators may know because I'm not sure if it's collected if you click your phone screen on and off, like from sleep where the screen is black to clicking it on. Do you understand what I mean, Charmaine, by that?
I do, and I believe that
They may be able to track it. Yeah. They may be able to track the amount of times or track the actual time it clicks on. But they would have a better estimate than what I would. I know that it would be after Malaya made the call or before, like a little bit before, because I remember when the last time Lily came in, it was daylight outside. But I just seen it as Lily's up, Malaya must be getting up and getting her off of school because I didn't look at my phone. And so when we eventually did wake up, it would have been, she made the call at 10:01, so I'm thinking like 9:57 maybe around there. By the time we got up, went to the kitchen, I looked into the living room. I seen that the kids weren't there. I ran back to Lily and Jack's room, looked underneath their bed, they weren't there. So then we proceeded outside. We went over beyond the fence in front of Mom's RV, and that's when Malaya asked me, should we call 911 or should I call 911? Like, that's a given, right? I don't see the kids out in the yard. They weren't in the house. There's nothing else that, can be done. I think Malaya made it. I ran up to the cabins in the woods, which is, I don't know, 150 feet away maybe, or I don't know the exact amount of feet. And then, so I ran up there when Malaya was on the dispatch call at 10:01. And I came down the hill behind Mom's RV, and I was screaming Lily and Jack, right? And that's what got Mom up out of bed, was she heard me yelling. And because when I scream, I can scream extremely loud. So, and there was no reason not to scream as loud as you can. Like, my throat literally hurt for, the first few days of the search because I was just screaming so much. And so Mom woke, that's what triggered Mom to get up, was she heard me screaming at the top of my lungs for Lily and Jack. Malaya was still standing in the same spot on the dispatch call. And so I ran.
I would love, and I've tried. I've filled out freedom of information, everything. I have tried very hard to get a copy of that 911 call. I would love to hear if you can hear Daniel yelling for Lily and Jack in the background. Because according to him here now, Malaya was on 911 while he was calling for them. Hey, Vonna, how are you? Good to see you. So, boy, I would love to get my hands on that. Anyway, I think a lot of people would love to for all kinds of different reasons, right? But the other point that Kent made last night, and it was a really good, valid point, was that the RCMP got on the property at 10:27 a.m. And by the way, Kent, Daniel seems to think it was more around 10:22. But regardless of that, and he's going to go through the whole timeline here, but regardless of that, we do know for sure, and it's verified and clarified, and I have the photo of it, of the screenshot of her cell phone screen. That 911 call was 9 minutes and 45 seconds long, and she made it at 10:01. The police didn't get there until 10:27, or according to Daniel, 10:22, whatever. So that indicates, and Kent pointed it out, that the RCMP dropped the call, ended the call with her before the members even got on the property, which is somewhat unusual because, yes, they usually stay on the phone with you.
And going back to what you were saying before about taking the earliest information would probably be more true,
Yeah.
then I think the 9:30, 9:48 time frame is more like the truth, because Malaya said 20 minutes in her first and only TV interview the day after the children went missing. And Daniel, when we were on Sunny's, which was 4 or 5 weeks in, maybe 6, and I was asking him questions, and I said, well, Malaya said you woke up. No, it was 9:38. And I asked him, well, how do you know that? And he said, well, I looked at my phone. So for that info to have been said day 2 and therefore a little bit after, I think would be probably, like you say, in reference, more accurate than what we've heard a couple weeks ago in this interview that you're playing.
Yes. This interview was a month ago.
Yeah.
And again, thank you to Charmaine for having Daniel on her panel, on her true crime story podcast on YouTube. Okay, let's carry on.
And I ran by Malaya, ran at the house. I said, I'm going to go jump in the car and go get the keys. I got the keys, ran in the house, got the keys, tried to go out through the front door. And I seen that. No, originally I tried to come in through the front door and it was still, had like the wrench or whatever that was jammed in the outside porch door. So I couldn't get in through the front. So then I ran all the way through the back, past the fence, went up into the house on the end table, grabbed the keys, and then I came out through the front door, got in the car, and then I proceeded to drive all the way up to Lansdowne Road. And so I entered Lansdowne Road at like 10:05 or 10:06, right? I already went over all this with investigators, so they know the whole timeline on my venture here. And so I entered Lansdowne Road at 10:05 or 10:06, and then I proceeded to drive up Lansdowne Road all the way out to the tracks. I drove like 10 or 15 kilometers an hour, just swaying my head back and forth. And one thing I didn't notice, Jermaine, the blanket wasn't in the tree at that time. So it was planted after approximately 10:08, maybe 10:09, when I would have drove past where the blanket is at the bottom of that dirt road. So at 10:09 or 10:08, the blanket wasn't in the tree. I drove all the way out to the railroad tracks. People can look at this on the map on Lansdowne Road. And then I circled around at a U-turn, came all the way back to Gairloch Road, proceeded down Gairloch Road, went up Lansdowne Station Road, past good old Bradley Wong's, and went all the way out to the McLeod Road, came all the way back down Gairloch Road. But on the way, I stopped at every bridge and culvert and jumped out and looked inside, because I thought the kids might be playing in the water, because kids always take the path of least resistance. So they're always going to stay on a road or a path. They're not going to just travel straight through the woods where it's hard, right? Because the structure and anatomy of their limbs, they're required to take the path of least resistance, meaning that they have to walk where there's a trail, because they can't overcome branches and logs and stuff like that.
Oh
They
my
have to
God,
do
Daniel,
what an
shut
animal
the
does.
fuck
They
up.
save the most energy they can, and it's natural to do that, to stay on a path. So I thought they would just go on the roads. That's why I did that. Came down Gairloch Road. Sorry for that little bit of an explanation, but I want to get that out of the way there. Came down Gairloch Road, arrived at the house, and the RCMP were at the very end of the driveway. They were in the driveway, so I couldn't park there. I didn't want to block them in. I didn't want to block law enforcement in. So I drove to the other side of the marsh. People look at the map. On the other side of the marsh, there's a little driveway thing. So I parked there, And I got out of the car. I was going to proceed to keep searching into the woods around the area, but law enforcement yelled to me and they said, Daniel, don't go back into the woods just yet. So I walked over to the house, and this would have been, it took law enforcement 21 minutes to arrive on scene. And so I'm guessing by the time I got there, it would have been 10:22 maybe. So they were just walking down and starting to gather around Malaya. So I came over to the house, and I didn't want to, overstep my bounds because Malaya was telling them what was going on and stuff. So I didn't want to interject with that. So I came down, I was talking to Mom, and they told me not to go back into the woods. And so I was down there for maybe.
So did you make a note of that? He said that he couldn't go back in the woods, so he went down and he was just talking to his mom. So his mom already got back before he did. But his mom was walking. He was in a vehicle. Right? Do you remember? And we were talking about this last night. Janie went up into the woods and in behind her RV there, to the side of her RV, up to the old road, and she ran into Daniel in the vehicle. And Daniel asked her, do you want to hop in? And she said, no, I'm just going to carry on looking here. And then she walked down the old road, and I suppose towards Gerlach Road, and then down Gerlach Road home. But we were anticipating last night when we were trying to do this whole timeline, we were all talking about the fact that Daniel would have gotten back before Janie because Janie's on foot.
Yeah, but you got to remember that old road is the one where the kids' forts are. That's
Yes.
just goes up in behind the house. That's only
Yeah.
she'd be lucky if she was back in there a mile.
Right.
Daniel was coming in the other end of it up off the Laird Road, so he would, and driving slow, he would be 5 to 10 minutes away, and she'd be just walking. And when she gets out to the end of Gerlach, like to the end of the old road, she's in her door. She's in her dooryard. Like
Okay.
she doesn't have to walk down the road. Like
It just, okay. And, and fair enough. I'm at a disadvantage here because I've never been there, right? So I haven't seen the geography physically. I've seen it on a map. It looks all really not that far. Nothing seems far. So even Daniel, wherever Daniel was, doesn't seem as though it would be terribly far, but he's in a vehicle.
yeah,
And
and
so,
probably driving normal speed, it might take him 5 minutes.
right.
But if he was driving slower and looking on either side of the road,
Yeah,
as you said he
maybe.
was, it might take him 10 or 15 minutes to come back home.
10 or 15 minutes. And then a guy dressed in military gear. It could have been military gear or the uniform of a dog handler because they both use very similar dark military green. It said Oliver on his back. And that guy told me, he said, Daniel, you're free to go back into the woods. So I jumped the back fence and I continued to search behind the house. I don't know if many people know that story, but it's fully out there and open now. Not a lot of people, believe me when I said, like, I searched the roads and everything beforehand. They thought I was gone for hours and I took the kids away. That's completely false. I was only gone for, 17 minutes or something, or of that nature. Just enough to do those dirt roads and then make my way back.
Yeah, people were, we heard at the beginning that you were gone all day searching, and people surmised that you were hiding from law enforcement.
Yeah.
And then when you got back from searching all of the culverts and all that, you weren't soaking wet because we were all there to see what your condition was when you got back. But I mean, it's out there. People are speculating on it. So thank you for going over that again.
I arrived home from that initial search in the car at 10:22 or something like that, or 10:23. The RCMP was just still walking down to Malaya, so I wasn't gone for that long, and that was just enough time to search all the closest roads, right, and look at the bridges and culverts, because Willie and Jack were always attracted to water. I mean, as most kids are, right? It's fun to throw rocks in water and stuff as a kid. So, and when I take Jack and Lily fishing, they would usually just do that: go to the water and throw rocks in it. So.
Right, and just one more thing about that morning. Well, I'm sure there are other questions from other people, but myself, after talking to Janie, after talking to your mom, I had asked her at what point did she inform Malaya or you that she had just heard the kids outside playing, and your mom said she doesn't think she did. Do you know, when did you learn that your mom had heard the kids not too terribly long before you guys realized they were missing?
I don't recall when Mom actually told me. That's a very good point. I never thought of that. I've never been asked that question. That's a really good question.
He never thought of that.
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for the exact time.
I'm going to address this in a minute.
And that's probably the only question I can't answer. I don't recall on that. And I'm sorry to your viewers that I can't recall that.
This is nonsense, total nonsense. I'm sorry. I have nothing against Daniel, and I really try to be objective. But his mother hearing the children Friday morning was the very last time that anybody heard the kids. She is the last person to have heard those children ever. So that is extremely important. It'll be really important to law enforcement. It would be really important to Malaya. It should be really important to Daniel, who has spent so much time and effort in searching this. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest pieces of information in the whole story. And he says this is the only thing. I don't know. I just, yeah. That's his mother's the last person to have heard them. And he's like, well, I wasn't there. I don't know. This is so incredibly important, and he knows that it would have been important. Yeah, and thank you, Macy, for that choral. I did see it this time.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so, and what he said, I'm not sure if I can find the timestamp, Kent, but I was correct in because he had told me on the phone ages ago, and I was correct last night in in mapping out how, where he went, how he went. He went down Lansdowne Road. He went all the way just past the railroad tracks. And then he turned around and he came all the way back down Lansdowne Road. And then he went down Lansdowne Station Road around there to McLeod Road.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know I know where Matheson Road is. And Laird Road. I don't know where McLeod Road is. But anyway, he went to McLeod Road, turned around, and then went back. And that's when he went down Gerlach Road. That's when he saw the RCMP just arriving.
Yeah. McLeod Road would come out on the other end onto Matheson Road.
Okay.
But Yeah, the one thing there,
Hey, Moss.
um, the screenshot that you showed with Malaya's 911 call last night,
Yeah,
do you have that nearby?
I think so. Um, yeah. Friday, May 2nd, 911. Outgoing call, 9 minutes, 45 seconds, 10:01 a.m.
So it would be impossible for what Daniel said there of waking up or noticing that the children were gone missing at 9:57 or 9:58, whatever he said.
I'm
And
next.
and then to happen what happened before he left, and for him to be gone by the time that she made the call at 10:01.
I think the whole goddamn thing is impossible. I think it's absolute, complete. I mean, you heard him say, let me just see if I can put this up. You heard him say that his mother came out of her trailer because she heard him yelling.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah. No, that time on Charmaine's show, that's a year later, where they had time to think and place stuff the way that they think they want it,
yeah,
but it doesn't fit the timeline.
I think you're right. Hold on a minute. This is Janie, and this was probably back in the summer in July. Okay. Whoever's got their TV on, can you mute yourself?
Mine's not on.
Is that you, Macy?
Of course it is.
Okay. I'm just so here's Janie. Okay. This is what Janie says back in June or July.
I sat here. I played on Team U, which is the worst thing you can get addicted to. And then my brother called me at 8:48. Talked for 2 minutes 59 seconds. He asked me if I was going to town. I said no. I said I'm staying home. I'm going back to bed to have a sleep. I went back to bed. It wasn't long after that. I can't tell you how long. I laid there for a little while playing on playing on Facebook. I dozed off. I heard the dog bark. The kids were outside. I heard the kids. And then after that, I didn't hear nothing. Everything just went completely silent. And I don't know how long after that, I heard Daniel yelling for the kids. I figured he was yelling at the kids to get inside, or Jack was letting my chickens out, which he usually does. He let them out a few times. So I figured Daniel was getting mad at him for that. The next thing you know, I dozed off again a little, maybe dozed off, or I get up about 5 or 10 minutes after that, and I found Malaya outside, standing there holding Meadow on her hip, and she was holding her on her right side of her hip. Now, I don't recall if she had her phone or not. That wasn't important to me. The only thing is what I was looking at is her standing there, and I asked her what's up, and that's when she told me the kids were missing for 20 minutes. I sat here. I played on Team U.
That's Janie's story.
By that story and comparing that to what Daniel just said in Charmaine's live, Janie would have had to have seen Malaya's phone because she would have been on it.
You would think so, unless Janie came out of there at about 10:15 after she made the call. That would have put Janie in the woods about 10:20.
But I don't think that she would have had time to walk back the old road and back and be there as the RCMP are arriving at 10:27.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And then if you go even earlier than this audio from Janie and you hear what she told both Darren and Belinda, and I asked Belinda when she was on the panel about a month ago, and Belinda confirmed this, that Janie told Belinda and also told Darren that she came out of the RV and asked Malaya, where are the kids?
And
And
what's going on?
she asked where the kids were because she was expecting to see the kids, because she had just heard the kids. There was no waiting. She came out of the RV literally right after she heard the kids and says to Malaya, where are the kids? And Malaya said, they're in the woods.
Mhm.
And she didn't say they were missing. She said they were in the woods. The other thing, too, that Janie said, told Belinda and Darren, was the fact that when she was in her RV, she heard, quote, Malaya say, shh, 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 seemingly to, I don't know, the children. And then she came out of the RV and saw Malaya standing there.
You know, the other thing that I picked up, and I can't remember where I read it, if it was somebody sharing pieces of the document or what.
Yeah.
But you know, Lily's strawberry backpack.
Yes.
Now, I've always known that it was missing since the time that it was come out and said that Lily had taken it. But what I did not know, and I seen somewhere just recently in the last few days, it was stated that Lily went to bed with said backpack.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And it also was told to me by Daniel that Lily, in fact, had two backpacks. And that was the backpack that she only used when she was going to spend the night at grandma's or wherever.
Going on a sleepover, yep.
Yeah. But yes, that's in the documents. And when I first saw that in the documents, I thought, what the fuck? What, goes to bed with her backpack? What? A teddy bear maybe, but a backpack?
But would said backpack have clothes in it?
Yeah. I don't know.
You know what I'm getting at.
Hmm. Yeah. It's just really, really peculiar. And the most important thing in the whole case being his mother being the very last person ever to hear these children ever on this earth. And he doesn't know and can't remember? Didn't ask his mom? Come
Can't
on.
recall when his mother
Come
told
on.
him that.
Come on. No. I don't buy it. No, that's absolutely untrue. Completely untrue. If your children are missing and you've been pulling your hair out, running through waist high deep water, running faster than helicopters, your entire life is upside down looking for the kids, and you find out that your mother heard the kids, that would be the biggest news to you. You'd never forget it. And he just sort of pushes it aside as though it's an afterthought that he never bothered asking about. Bullshit. I call bullshit.
Yeah.
No.
Could I say something, please?
Of course you can.
When you say about Malaya being on the phone to the police, because I can't remember their name, the RNPCA or whatever they're called, when
Yeah.
it happens here a lot. So I'm sort of guiding it of what our police do.
Yeah.
When a child goes missing, it takes about 10 minutes to answer the questions. What were they wearing? What did they have on their feet? What were they carrying? How long have they been missing? And in between that, they're typing. Then they're going off to talk to someone else. Then they come back. What colour hair have they got? Is it long, short, curly? Was Jack's short? What colour was Jack's hair? What colour was Lily's hair?
Hmm.
That takes time.
Yeah.
But as you say, you'd love to know what she was on about on that phone call.
Well,
I,
that may you may be right, Macy. Maybe the phone call itself was all absolutely legitimately the right and proper time. I would love to hear that 911 call for two
yeah,
reasons. Um, Firstly, the point that Kent made last night, I'd like to hear her tone. I want to hear how anxious she was. But the other thing that came up in what Daniel was saying in this interview here, I would love to see if I could hear him calling for Jack and Lily in the background, because he said she was on the phone with dispatch and he was screaming for Jack and Lily.
well, they would have heard that, wouldn't they, on the phone
Hmm.
call? But the other thing I've just thought of, but I can't remember it now. The fog has
And
gone to my brain.
that's probably the information they got out of her in the 9 minutes and 55 seconds or 45 seconds that they were on the phone with her, Macy.
Yes,
But is what we were saying last night, that 911 dispatcher would be trained to calm those people down in those panic situations.
yeah.
And once they got that most pertinent information, why did they let her end the call before first responders got on the scene?
Do you know what I would like to know is when Malaya went in that ambulance and Cindy went in that ambulance and Malaya coming out completely different. What did Cindy say to Malaya?
I know what happened to the kids.
Let's get the fuck out of here because I know where the kids are.
Yeah,
You're
No, I'm
coming
I'm
with me
making it up.
because
I
I
don't
know
know.
where the kids are.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know,
know.
because she came out completely different as she went in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when Cindy went in, the ambulance, it all changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what was
According
said in the
according
ambulance?
according to Daniel and according to Logan. Yes. And then according to Daniel, Malaya was extremely anxious and Cindy was really trying to rush Malaya out of there. Said we got to leave, we got to go. And they were in a real hurry to get out of there.
Yeah, that's what I would like to know, what she said to that girl in that ambulance to make her change. Just like switching on light bulb, light switch.
Mhm.
Well, Cindy's control over her, from what I know, it wouldn't have to be very much.
Mm.
Yeah. Well,
But sorry, I'm butting in again.
no, you're fine.
But like as I said, when you're on the phone and your child's gone missing, it does take about 20 minutes because they want to know the ins and outs. What underwear were they wearing? What socks were they had on? What shoes or boots? And did she have ribbons in her hair? Did she have slides in her hair? You know, they ask everything. They go right through the child what
Yeah.
they were wearing. So that 9 whatever could be then asking her what Jacqueline was wearing.
And they didn't get that right, Macy, because we still don't know.
No.
13 months today. Or yesterday.
But can you see what I'm trying to say?
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that Malaya would have been asked that question probably half a dozen times from half a
Yeah.
dozen different policemen as well, just to make sure that she was saying the same thing.
Well, you can hear it on the audio dispatch when somebody at the house calls for the commander and for him to come back and talk to the parents at the house. And he says, "Is this just a talk or what do you need me for?"
Yes, I remember
And
that.
and he said to get like the description, and the commander told that officer, "You get a description and get that out."
Yeah, yeah,
And that's also when the 8 a.m. was stated.
yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So there's still a lot of questions to be answered and want to find out.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
did find
I'm
out something.
only I'm only guessing that is what they're asking her. That's what I was thinking when I was in bed.
Sailor Moon, I think that's over on my YouTube channel.
I did find out two things. Well, I found out one thing and I found another thing very interesting after our conversation last night.
Yeah.
The extended warrants for the technological or whatever it is that you want to call it.
The digital, yeah.
What if that was for Cindy's car that she traded in?
Oh, interesting. Possible.
Right? It's close to the family. It was traded in shortly after kids went missing. I think it's now being said to have been spotted in the area in the
Yeah.
morning
Hmm.
with Hayden in it and his girlfriend and somebody else.
Yeah. The other thing too, um, in the court documents, it becomes Emily who found the pink blanket.
Yeah, and then Cheryl and Logan and them were just coming up behind her.
Well, Cheryl was there, apparently, according to Cheryl. And it was Logan that came upon that group of people.
Yeah.
Oh, Vana wants you to repeat what you were just talking about, Kent.
Well, I'm thinking after what we were talking about last night and the extending of warrants to other digital devices, and maybe one extension of the warrant would be for Cindy's car, the maroon colored vehicle that she traded in Amherst 2 or 3 days after the children went missing.
Yeah. Mindwalker, Cindy is Malaya's mother. Malaya is the mother to Jack and Lily Sullivan. So Cindy is the maternal grandmother.
And yes, I know that you're putting a little bit of faith in Anita, but I do believe the stuff that Anita states that happened from Sunday afternoon or Monday afternoon, whenever she got there. I believe it was Monday afternoon, until the following week when Malaya decided to leave and head to the reserve. Because once Malaya headed to the reserve, Anita was no longer taken or needed, and
Yeah.
anything that she states as truth after that point has become hearsay that she's hearing that either Malaya, Cindy, Wade has told her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I think that there's a grain of truth to everything that Anita says, but I also think that Anita exaggerates an awful lot. Um, her stories kind of grow.
The fisherman story,
Yeah, exactly.
right? But what I want to know, and the reason why I don't put much faith in the things after she left, is I don't think her and Cindy and Melandon was all that close. So how was she hearing
Yeah.
all the information? Was she just keeping track of social media and YouTube, and then when she came out, she just basically respelled it and played her story?
Well, we know that Cindy has picked up stories from social media and made them her own. I mean, I know that. Suddenly it becomes her story. But the thing about it is that, yes, to Anita's own admission, she was very hurt by Cindy. So no, they weren't getting along after the fact. So, these aren't buddies that are sitting on the phone every afternoon chatting to one another, right? The other thing too that Daniel said in that, I've only listened to about an hour of that interview, but the other thing that he said, and this was another area where he just sort of started talking about like this whole global kind of uh, topic of how he doesn't like to talk to people that are pro Malaya. Okay. He was asked by Damien in chat, in Charmaine's chat there, because she kind of opened it up and had people from the chat ask questions. Where were you searching when you heard Lily scream? And if you remember, I did a video on that. And that was when he had been talking to me and mentioned that, well, when I was out searching, I did hear, I heard a scream that sounded like Lily. Now that's very important because Daniel was the stepfather and he had been in their lives for 3 years. So he absolutely would be able or should be able to identify, his stepdaughter's scream. So anyway, when he was asked that question from Damien in chat, he completely turned the whole thing around that, Damien, I think Damien is pro Malaya. And yeah, you see, I don't really, I can't really, I don't talk a lot to people that are pro Malaya. I like to talk to people like you, Charmaine, who, you're not pro Daniel, you're not pro Malaya, you're just, you're pro Lily and Jack. He never answered the question. And I don't honestly think it matters whether someone's pro Malaya, pro Daniel, pro Lily and Jack, whether they're completely objective. The guy was asking, where were you looking when you heard the scream? And one of the things he said was, well, I searched that whole area really well anyway. I've already done it. That wasn't the question. The question was, where was it? And he never answered. Yeah, so there are some pretty important questions that the guy never answers. That being one of them, right? Thank you, Rosalie, for the heart me. And Mama P for the Club of Power. Thanks, guys. It all helps. It all really helps the algorithm of the channel. So I really do appreciate it. And the heart me's help you and your levels as TikTok users. And don't forget to grab your perks by hitting the heart next to my name up there if you're sending heart me's out. But yeah, so it's just interesting that he really does, when you really analyze what he talks about, what he answers easily, and what he avoids, he really does control a lot about what he's talking about. And our community just teared up. Woohoo! whatever that means. I really don't. It's a good thing though. Thank you, be kind. Chrissy, thanks for the popular arrow. Yeah, so I mean he really does decide what, and it's unfortunate that I think Shar I think it was great that Shar got him on and got him there and got him talking. That's what we want, obviously, right? And it's so interesting because we were right last night when we said the narrative has changed, that Janie came out of the RV because she heard this, Daniel calling for the kids and yada yada. But that's not what Janie said in, way back, like back in June or July. She just basically said that, yeah, she says that she heard Daniel calling the kids, but then she was scrolling Facebook. And then she got up and then, went outside the RV and says, and I found Malaya standing there. And I was like, what's up? There you are. How are you?
Wow, that happened so fast. I'm doing okay.
Good.
Doing okay. So we discovered there's inconsistencies. It's like almost every fact is over on the inconsistent side now, I think.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, Trisha, no, she actually says in her audio that that she gave way back in the summer. It's very clear that she implies that she just basically came out of the RV. And she said, her words are, and I found Malaya standing there. And I said, what's up? But the narrative then changed as time went on, that she came out of the RV and said, what's going on? Like as though, she was roused because she heard all of this stuff. She did hear Daniel calling for the kids, and she said in the audio, I heard Daniel yelling at the kids. I thought to come inside. Or maybe yelling at Jack for letting the chickens out again, like he does. And she said, so I was just scrolling Facebook. And then she said, and when I went out of the RV, I found Malaya standing there. And I said, what's up? So I really firmly believe, if anybody asked Janie to really, truly concentrate back to Friday morning as to really and truly why she got up and left the RV, like I said last night, I wouldn't be surprised if she said, you know what? Yeah, I got up to go outside and have a smoke. And I found Malaya standing in the driveway, couldn't figure out what she was doing. That it wouldn't surprise me. That's the way it sounded when she was on her audio. And later the narrative kind of changes a bit. So yeah. But
sometimes the narrative changes a bit, but sometimes it's flip-flopping too. And that's it's like, what fact has really stayed? Well, at the beginning we were told she called 911 at 10:01. Now we know she called at 10 o'clock and the phone was connected at 10:01. Other than that, what other fact has stood up?
Yeah. Well, and she talked, and she was on the phone for 9 minutes and 48 seconds. And Daniel said, I played that audio earlier tonight. I played a lot of the audio. And what he is saying is, now here's another thing that makes no sense. Chrissy was saying way earlier that the school called Malaya at 9:38. And the story has always been that Malaya and Daniel were in bed together, dozing in and out of sleep, remember? Daniel says on this thing, Daniel says that he woke up. Lily stuck her head in the door multiple times, and then he says, a little bit later, he says she stuck her head in the door a couple of times and woke me up. But he never mentions anywhere in this, anywhere, that Malaya got a phone call from the school. And in fact says, I didn't know that the kids were even not going to be going to school. I didn't know that she had marked them absent. Well, how can you be in bed with somebody beside them that gets a phone call, talks on the phone to somebody, and not wake up to that? And yet you wake up to somebody, to a little girl opening the door a couple of times? But he never, ever mentions this phone call that Malaya supposedly got from the school. Chrissy, is there, I wanted to ask you, is that actually verified anywhere that Malaya got that call at 9:38?
It's verified as far as somebody viewing the text messages, but we don't have a copy of it, and the school didn't confirm anything. So
was it a text message or was it a phone call?
I believe it was a message.
Oh, okay. I thought she emailed the school. That's what Daniel said. Daniel said that he, not in this most recent thing, but again, way earlier, he said he knew that Malaya had marked the kids absent from going to school that day because he saw the confirmation email from the school. And he said it was sent at 6 something. So when we were talking suddenly about this teacher contacting Malaya at 9:38, I understood it was a phone call. But okay, so it was a text. Well, then, okay. Anyway, he says in this, he said in this thing that he had no idea at the time that Malaya had even marked the kids absent from going to school. He was assuming that the kids were going to school and thought that Malaya was going to be getting up with and getting the kids ready to go to school. And the question is posed to him, interestingly enough, what time did you discover that the kids weren't there? And he doesn't know, because he says, I didn't check the time on my phone. But then Kent said that in an earlier conversation Daniel was having with somebody online, he actually said that he did check his phone. And he looked at his phone and it was, I don't know, I can't remember what Kent said. But anyway, Daniel said here that and so the time is totally weird. He said that he's assuming that they got up and started looking for the kids at about 9:57. Well, Malaya called at 10:01, so anyway. It's all very weird. And then talked on the phone for 9 minutes and 48 seconds. When Janie came out from the RV, she says clearly that she asked, what's up? And said, I don't know if she had her phone. I wasn't looking for a phone. That's not what was on my mind at the time. So obviously she wasn't talking on the phone at that point. So it had to have been Janie must not have come out of the RV until about 12 minutes after 10, maybe 10:15. Okay, Mama P. Um, which then, and Janie was there before Daniel. When I say that, what I mean is Janie got back to the property before Daniel did, because Daniel says again in this thing on Shar's that he went up Lansdowne Road to the railway tracks, makes a U-turn, comes all the way down. As I mentioned last night, he goes down Lansdowne Station Road, he goes around and goes up McLeod Road, turns around, comes back, goes along Garlock Road, and the police were their vehicles were right in the driveway. He didn't want to block them in, so he pulled into the driveway next to the marsh, and they called out to him, Daniel, don't go back in the woods. So he said, I just simply walked up and started talking to my mother. So Janie was already back before Daniel got back. And yet Janie was on foot, walking. And yet they had just met up at the old road, if you recall, because they met up. Daniel was in the vehicle. She was walking.
They just
Do you
met
want
up on the old road. So she'd have
Right.
to walk back.
Right. Unless she didn't walk down the road, unless she just simply walked right back down the bank.
Did she already have her ATV at the time?
No. This was right when Malaya had told her that the kids were missing. She went in, got her boots.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep. We can hear you. She hiked up the hill next to the RV to the old road, and she met Daniel, who was in a vehicle. And she says to Daniel, have you found them? He goes, no. Do you want to hop in? And she says, no, I'm going to keep looking. And so that had to have been, and I think Daleen said the police got to the property at 10:27. Daniel said it was about 10:22 that he got back and the police were there.
I just thought of something. If Janie had gone with him to go check the side roads, or if they'd gone together for a drive for whatever reason, he could have dropped her off on the old road and she could have walked back while he went and parked to make it look like they weren't together.
And the only person that would know if Janie went with him would be Malaya, who isn't talking. Because Daniel says in this interview thing that when he left the property, Malaya was still on the phone with 911. I would love, I've done freedom of information. I've done all kinds of things to get a copy of that 911 call. And they will not release it. But he said here in this thing that he was calling for the kids. He says, I was yelling. My voice was hoarse. I was yelling and yelling for the kids. And he says, I didn't care how loud I yelled. And he said, Malaya was on the phone with the dispatcher. I would love to hear that call to see if you can actually hear Daniel in the background yelling, because you should be able to, based on what he said. It's really unfortunate, though, and I wish this were the States. It's so much easier to get that stuff in the States than it is in Canada. For some reason in Canada, we seem to want to protect people, and I don't understand why. Why there's this privacy issues of and protection. I just don't get it.
Am I just being dumb, or how does Justin even get there then? Like, does he come on the quad and like, is there a time?
I don't know. But the ATV, according to Janie, ages ago, was not even on their property. So where was it? Was it at Earl's? Where was it being stored? I mean, I don't know. Maybe Justin went to wherever the ATV was. But Janie and Justin were on the ATV together later. And how that all materialized, I don't know. Yeah, okay. Justin went to Earl's, according to Daniel. Okay. Yeah, I thought I had heard that it was being stored at Earl's. And then the other thing that's really weird too is um he said um Shar asks him, is there any way at all that Malaya could have got the kids off the property without himself or Janie being aware of it? And he said, oh no, that would be pretty well impossible. And he said, in fact, even when he jumped in the car that morning to go look for the kids, he had to wait for the RPMs in the car to lower or whatever the hell, because it hadn't been turned on all night. And then he said something to the effect of, oh, well, anyway, sorry about that detail. But details are important. And yet it's really interesting if you listen to him talk. It doesn't matter what you can pick wherever platform where he's talking. If you listen to the guy talk, he has this habit where when he wants to avoid a question, he starts talking about the subject on a sort of global kind of manner. Like, so he was asked whereabouts he was searching when he thought he heard Lily scream. Well, he never answered that question. Instead, he started talking about, the people that are pro-Malaya and how he doesn't want to talk to or work with people that are pro-Malaya. Yeah, exactly, Trisha. He segues into a broader kind of, because it was Damien that had asked him that in the chat. And he said, well, and then he starts going off that Damien is a pro-Malaya person and, yada, 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 yada. He does exactly the same thing about that whole period of time that him and Malaya are in bed in the morning. And he's asked about the time in which they discovered the kids missing. And he just simply goes off on this whole explanation of how Malaya was the one that would get up with the kids and get them ready for school, and how he would always stay in bed with Meadow. That was when him and Meadow would go back to sleep. I'm thinking, how much sleep does an 18-month-old baby have? A kid, according to Malaya, in the documents, and her statement is so odd. She says, I slept undisturbed all night. Well, the baby sleeps in the same room as they do, which basically indicates that the baby slept all night, which I have a really hard time believing. But given that, no 18-month-old is going to want to go back to sleep at 9 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, right, Mama P. I agree. It could be Trisha. But we don't really know what questions are challenging. They may not seem challenging or intimidating to us, but because we honestly, truthfully don't have any clue what went on, there might be something really seemingly insignificant, but actually is very significant. You know, I mean, why mention the RPMs? And one of the things that you will find that, we hear from behavior panelists and, oh my God, years ago, I used to watch Dr. Phil. He was the first person that I remember pointing this, sorry for yawning, pointing this out. And is that people will fill in more detail than you ask when they are trying to deceive you or when they're lying, right? So, it's like, what, where were you? Oh, well, I just went to the corner store. Yeah, I needed to pick up some things. I needed some milk, but I also needed some bread, so I went to the corner store. But I was gonna go to Walmart on my way home from work, but I never stopped there. And then I was thinking of getting it tomorrow, but I really needed the milk for, nobody asks, you just go, oh, I picked up some milk and bread, you know?
But we got to remember, the baby didn't go back to sleep,
Go
according to
ahead.
Malaya. Malaya
Well,
turned the TV on so the
yeah,
baby could watch cartoons,
yeah.
right?
No, I do remember that, and and I also picked up on the fact that that was never mentioned in Daniel's statement on Charmaine's live. He never mentions the TV being turned on. All that he says is that he was in bed with Meadow going back to sleep. Oh, Love and Light says in the document, it says Janie's brother went to get an ATV, not hers. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I don't know the time, but Justin arrived and then he ran down to Earl's, got the ATV, came back to Janie's with it, and him and Janie went up the old road again, probably this time right out to the pipeline. And then when they were coming back, this was when Daniel was allowed back in the woods because they asked Daniel, and Daniel hopped on, and the three of them came back down to the property again on the ATV.
Well, no, actually, I don't know, because Daniel said in Charmaine's live that the cop called to him when he parked the car by the marsh. When the police first arrived there, they
Yeah,
called out to him and said, Daniel, stay out of the woods. And he said, so he went up and talked to his mother And
Yeah,
he was
but then later on, the Oliver guy told him he was able to go back into the woods.
he didn't say later on.
Yeah,
He says, and then there was this Oliver guy. He says, I don't know who he was. He could have been a dog handler, looked like in military uniform, but some of the dog handlers wear stuff like that. It said Oliver on the back, and the guy said I could go back in the woods.
yeah.
And the way that he says that, it sounds as though it wasn't like hours later. It was only a few minutes later.
Well, I would say it's when the searchers got through the first area immediately behind the house.
Well, you would say, I would say, but what do we know? Because he does imply there, I mean, I played it tonight. He does imply that it was very, very soon after. He said, I walked up and I was talking to my mom, and then there was this guy in military uniform, and it said Oliver on the back of it, and he said that I could go back in the woods.
Yeah,
So I don't know, it
but we don't know the
sounds
time
like,
frame.
yeah, she's been in Terry Lynn. I'm not sure if she was in tonight. She was definitely here last night. I think she was in briefly tonight, but she was definitely here last night. Yeah, because um Kent, I picked up on the fact that this is what it sounded like, the way that Daniel explains it on that live, because I was surprised because I thought it was several hours after they asked him not to go back in the woods that they then gave him the okay to return. So if this was in the morning when he arrived back at the property, within 15 minutes, he says, of and they told him not to go in the woods, I would have assumed it was like in the afternoon that he was allowed to go back in the woods. But that's not really what he's implying. Like it sounds like it was, just I don't know, a few minutes or so.
I think you made this point last night. I think it's a really good point, was about, like, what was Malaya doing? Like, if Daniel was there when she made the 911 call and then he left, and then his mom was out searching in the yard, and by the time she's off the phone, Janie's also gone. Is she just sitting in the house wondering where her kids are? She doesn't, but according to the record, she doesn't call anybody else.
I don't know. I don't know. There's, there are these gaps, right, that we don't know. And I honestly have a really hard time believe, well, Daniel says, he says he doesn't know the time that they realized the kids were missing, and I believe the time was way earlier than 9:58, because we know that Malaya's mom tried, or she tried to call her mom, or her mom tried to call her, whichever the case may be, at what, 8:30 something, right? And
8:28.
yeah, 8:28. I mean, Malaya sure as hell was not sleeping. She's emailing the school, she's calling her mother. Like, this woman is not sleeping.
And we
So,
know from the time that she wrapped up on the 911 call at 10:15, she was on the property probably by herself until 10:27 when the RCMP arrived.
yeah. Well, that's a really good question, Love and Light. We don't know where Jack and Lily were at 8:28. Now, according to Janie, her brother called at 8:48, I believe it is. I don't know. I can't keep these fucking times in my head. But anyway, it was just shortly after 8:45. Her brother called, Ron Mackenzie, asking her to go shopping. She says, no, I'm going back to bed. And hangs, excuse me, hangs up the phone, crawls back into bed, and plays on Timu, she says. Dozes in and out of sleep. The dog barks, wakes her up. She hears the kids outside. So that would have been, I'm going to guess, maybe probably somewhere shortly after 9. She then starts scrolling Facebook, and then she starts hearing Daniel calling for the kids. But she doesn't get up. She said in her CBC interview that it was about 10 minutes after Daniel had stopped calling them that she got up and she went outside. So now you're going about 10:15-ish, which actually, that in and of itself works out time-wise because, sorry, no, that would have been, wait a minute. No, hold on, I'm getting all fucked up. That would have been 9:15. I'm
Oh, you were right, Susan. It was because Daniel said it was 9:58 that he went outside, started hollering. But between 8:48 and 9:38, that 40 minutes, we suspect that they just fell back asleep, if we believe what they
what
said.
time did Ron Mackenzie call Janie?
The second time, 8:48.
Right. 8:45, not 9:45.
Yes. So then,
So then she goes back to bed.
yeah, she didn't bother getting up until she heard Daniel hollering for the kids. He says at 9:58. So there's an hour and 10 minutes there.
Yeah. But
But we're saying 9:38 because of the teacher phoning back. So really it was 40 minutes. And then 20 minutes for them to search around the property and leave. And then Malaya called at 10:01. And then the RCMP arrived there at 10:27. And the RCMP, or Janie, was just getting back. And Daniel said that the RCMP cars had just finished parking in the driveway.
okay. So let's go back when Ron Mackenzie called Janie at 8:48. She says, I'm not going to go to town. I'm going back to bed. She hangs up the phone. She gets back into bed. She wakes up to her dog barking, which has always, now we don't have a timeline for that. That's what we don't have a timeline for, and Janie never, to my knowledge, has ever given one. But she heard the kids outside around the swing area, and she then started playing on Timu. She then hears Daniel yelling But at some point in all of this, in one of the versions, she hears Malaya saying, shh, but that got dropped from the narrative, and she, later on denied ever saying that, which she said it to Darren and she said it to Belinda, but I guess never mind that. So she then wakes up or she's scrolling her phone or what. I don't know why these people keep falling asleep. Man, what the hell? Anyway, she says, and this is the way Janie fills in the gaps. There's always this is the problem with this timeline. Someone please explain why Janie is so detailed with timelines. She knows she knows the time her brother called. She knows exactly to the second how long she spoke to him for. But isn't it strange she has no clue when she last heard the kids? Because she's the last person to hear them. But she just has she never ever says anything. All that she says, and this is how she plays this one, she says, the next thing I knew. The next thing I knew. The next thing I knew, the dog was barking and I heard the kids outside. Then the next thing I knew, I heard Daniel yelling at the kids to come inside. I thought that's what he was doing, or yelling at Jack for letting my chickens out again, which he always did.
The only reason why she was able to give an exact time on when her brother called and how long she was talking to him and any stuff like that was because it was on her phone.
Of course. Janie says she's not sure if she knew the kids were missing when Ron called. Oh, yeah. Darren was I remember him telling me on the phone, Janie has this down to the second. She's got the whole timeline all listed out.
And she does, according to her. But that still doesn't mean that it fits or that it's all true. The phone call from her brother at 6 o'clock that she missed, getting up at 7 a.m. and going out to feed her chickens, going back in and going to bed and getting another phone call from her brother at 8:48 and talking to him for 3 minutes and whatever seconds. That all has to be fact, because we've seen it on the digital readout of the phone. It's after that phone call from her brother Ron that she states that she heard the kids, but she can't say what time it was because she was playing a game on her phone, and she don't know how much time passed before that time and the time that she heard Daniel hollering what she thought at the kids, but for the kids. And then when she come out, the only other thing that she knows is in between there, because her dog didn't go barking crazy at any other point except for when he heard the kids, that's when she said, but I heard Malaya, and she said Malaya because the dog didn't bark at anybody else. Like the dog would have barked at anybody if it didn't know. That's when she said she heard a female voice shushing the kids. And then the next thing you know, Daniel's hollering for the kids at 10 to 10, running around the dooryard, then takes off. Janie comes out, finds Malaya standing there, says, "What's going on?" And she said, "The kids are in the woods." And then she called 911.
Yeah, so your version is mixing a little bit of many versions with Darren's version, because Janie's later version is that she comes out of the RV and says, "What's up?" And Malaya says the kids are missing.
Yeah.
And then in Daniel's version, he comes down from checking the forts, and his mom came out of the RV because she heard him yelling for the kids and
And I'm
asked
like, you-
and asked him
I'm,
what's going on. And he said to his mother, "Oh, we can't find the kids."
yeah. And I'm like you, I'm going back to the earlier statements from each party.
And today, new users get a $50 bonus credit. Go to deal-.com.
Whether it's Janie, Malaya, or Daniel. Daniel
Yeah.
has spoken the most. And therefore, and this is what everybody gave him the grief for all along, is that, well, if it's the truth, there shouldn't be that many inconsistencies. And Malaya only spoke to once, so we don't know if she has inconsistencies. And then Janie didn't speak for 6 weeks. And then she did speak a couple times after that, and she has inconsistencies.
Yeah. You need to turn your TV down. It's really loud. Like I can actually hear the advertisements. Does anybody know why Ron would have called her at 6:15 in the morning? That seems really friggin' early.
Well, they say that that was the time that he would normally call, because they would normally head in for groceries around 8:30 or 9. And when he called her at 6:30, but he didn't get her, and she never bothered returning his call. So then he called her back again when he was getting ready to leave to go to town at 8:48.
But don't you find that odd? If he always typically calls her, and I remember her also saying that Friday was the day that, Ron would always go to town and take her in shopping, so it wasn't unusual for him to call. Okay, fine. And if that's their story, that he always calls her at the crack of fucking dawn, sorry, but to find out if she's going shopping with him in 2 goddamn hours, um, if she's used to and accustomed to receiving this call at 6:15, she would have known, she would have anticipated that call. So when she didn't get it, she would have presumably checked her phone. Hey, has my brother called me? Is he going, seen a missed call? Would you not think that she would have called him back and said, "Sorry, I missed your call. Just letting you know, I'm not going to go to town today"?
Yeah, I don't know if it was around the 6:15. The 6:15, 6:17 time frame, that's when Malaya notified the school the kids weren't going to go to school. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember the time. But I know it was before she went to feed her chickens at 7.
Right. Hello, McHugh.
Now, my question, even when that was from the start, is okay, if Ron calls her early in the morning and she went out to feed her chickens at 7, wouldn't she look at her phone when she come back in and see the missed call and then
Well,
call him back?
this is what I'm saying. If she is used to having her brother calling her at the crack of friggin' dawn to find out if she's going to go shopping in 3 hours with sorry, but this is just ridiculous. Um she would have anticipated that he would have called her. And she gets up at 7 anyway to go feed the chickens, to go outside and have a coffee, have a cigarette, or whatever she's doing.
Yep.
That's the time you would think she would have said in her head, oh, my brother should have called me by now. He always calls me at the crack of fucking dawn every Friday to find out if I'm going shopping with him at 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean, come
Yep.
on, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3 hours. He calls her ahead. I'm not buying that. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I don't. Nobody calls anybody at 6 o'clock in the morning to find out if they're going to go grocery shopping with them at 9 when you just
Well,
when you live a few minutes down the road, and you're going to do this every Friday morning.
I can't tell you if that's what time he normally calls, but he definitely called at that time that morning, but Janie didn't answer.
Who the hell would answer? I have my phone on silent mode. I wouldn't answer.
I answer my phone 24 hours a day.
Oh,
Sometimes it scares the shit out of me. And I guess that was just from being in the business. That
Andrew's mom, in more ways than one. She says the digital Lawrence will pick that up. It might be a wake-up call in more ways than one.
But
McHugh, are you still here? Did she leave? Oh, maybe she left. Or if you're on private, if you want to request up to the panel, request up to the panel. I don't see you in the list. I saw you come in. I don't see you in the list.
I
Anyway,
think I'm going to head to bed.
are you
2 o'clock
okay?
here.
I'll keep
Night,
that in mind.
folks.
Kent, I'll keep that in mind that you answer your phone 24/7.
Yeah. Well, when we had the towing business, right, you had to take it whenever it called, so.
Of course.
So.
Yeah. Well, Darren used to call me at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'd be like, I'm 4 hours behind you, buddy. Anyway, yeah, it just, so it just, it doesn't, there's something really off about this. Call him at 4 and just say, wondering if you would answer. Mustang girl. Hilarious. Oh, there, yeah, you're right. You really do answer your phone 24/7. Okay, good night.
I was just thinking about it too. Like, nobody ever talks about what time did the kids wake up, because I'm not saying we would know the answer for sure, but Malaya says or dispatch relays that Malaya said the last time she heard the kids, they were in their bedroom at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So if she heard them at 8 a.m., what time did they wake up? And if they went to bed at 9 o'clock, they're regular, if they took the school bus, they would have to be up probably by 7 o'clock. Chrissy, how long was their bus trip?
I think the bus picked them up at 7:35 or something like that. I remember hearing.
I think it's like a 20-minute bus ride.
So if they're used to getting up at 7 o'clock, like, if she was up at 7 o'clock and was letting her chickens out and having a cigarette, why? Daniel said they had to get up at 6:30. Okay. So, but she's up at 7 o'clock having a cigarette and tea. Would she have not, would she have heard them from outside the trailer? I guess it's not that Depending how loud the kids are, probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. An awful lot was going on that morning, what with phone calls to everybody and text messages and kids up, and yet everybody was sleeping. Everybody was going back to bed. Everybody was going back to sleep. And yet they were getting text messages and phone calls. It's weird. It's very weird. And I don't understand why everybody's so damn tired. You know, especially a baby, 18-month-old baby. And that was the other thing about the time the kids went to bed. Malaya said 9. She then later said it was closer to 10.
And if she gets up to turn the TV on for Meadow, why doesn't she get up to go turn the TV on for the kids in the living room? Like, it's a very small space.
Well, and then the other thing too, that's a very good point. The other thing too that I always wondered when Daniel was talking to me and he said that the kids actually did speak to him. Sorry, not the kids. Lily did in fact say something when she poked her head in the door. She said, "Hi, Dad," and seemed excited. Why wouldn't she say, "Hi, Mom"? Where was Malaya? Why would she only say, "Hi, Dad"? That seemed very odd to me. And unfortunately, I didn't ask him because I didn't think of it until afterwards when I was sort of processing the whole conversation back again. And I thought, wait a minute, hold on. This is their mother. If she's laying in bed with him, why wouldn't Lily have said, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad," or something like that? Okay, Daleen. I mean, a small child doesn't open up the bedroom door and see their mom and dad in bed and say, "Hi, Dad." Right? So where was Malaya? Well, even Daniel got that wrong because when I asked him the very last time he saw Jack, he said it was when he turned the light on at midnight and to check on them. And he was in bed. And then he said in the live with Charmaine, who asked him effectively exactly the same question, he said the last time he saw Jack was when they got home from New Glasgow Thursday afternoon, and Jack was going, I think he said going inside or something. I think Jack actually stayed outside and was picking worms, according to Janie. So I mean, Daniel can't even get the last time that he saw. These are the things when you have missing children. These aren't things you get wrong. You remember the very last time you set eyes on that child. You don't forget that. And yet that too has now become something completely screwed up. I have a sense in the last little while that because there's so many versions of this morning, which honestly it's not a long period of time. We're talking when Janie came out of the RV and talked to Malaya or talk to Daniel, whichever version you want to hear. Came out recently after she heard the kids, or not recently after she heard the kids. 10 minutes after Daniel stopped calling for the kids, or whatever. I don't know. I just get a sense that none of it happened. Nothing. None. Other than the fact that Malaya called 911. Because I just don't see how two people, we don't know Malaya's side really, because she never explains anything, but how two people can get this so wrong. And then, I mean, to hear Daniel be so nonchalant about the fact that his mother never said, oh, I heard the kids that morning. And it was like, oh, well, I wasn't there when she talked to Malaya, so I don't know what their conversation was. And yeah, no, I didn't bother asking her. What do you mean you didn't bother asking her? If that happened, that's the last person that ever heard Lily and Jack. Ever. That's pretty huge. And if you have two missing children and you find out that your own mother heard them that morning, shut up. You're not gonna, I didn't ask her about it? Bullshit. Bullshit. Yeah, and here's a mother. Here's a mother of two missing children, and she's busy deleting apps off of her phone and going to her mother's the next day and deleting him, and breaking up and posting single on Facebook. No, I'm just not going to buy any more of it. It's just all nonsense. And the sooner the police get to the bottom of it, the better. Anyway, guys, I'm going to head out. But thank you for being here. Thanks for the likes, 115,000 likes. You guys rock. I really, really appreciate the support. Thank you for the gifts. And we will see everybody tomorrow night. And I hope everybody has a great night. Stay safe and sleep well. And have a great tomorrow. Take care for now.